Holman, are you going to apologize for being a little late to this episode?
No, I'm not going to apologize because I was out getting premium content for the Truck Show podcast.
Please explain.
Nope.
Do you want me to cut this part out? Is this embargoed? Is it secret?
Yeah,
What's
it's
going
embargoed.
on?
We can't talk about it till next week.
Embargo.
I can tell you this. I was in the desert hucking a 720 horsepower truck over crest at about 70 miles an hour.
Okay, so wait a minute. This is not the TRX. That's 702. And the Raptor is 7. Oh, is this the new Raptor with the upgrade? More horsepower?
I was just in the desert driving a truck doing stuff.
It's the Raptor R. Interesting.
Can't talk about it till next week, so moving right along.
All right, well, this show is over. We'll talk to you guys in a week.
Nope. We
All
have
right,
all
Holman,
sorts of content.
This is the next week's show now.
Nope.
This show is airing a week after.
No, you're confusing
the one-
people.
No, I am.
Let's just do a show. Let's do a show, and then next week we'll do another show, and when we do that other show, we can do stuff with it.
All right, okay, that's fine.
All right.
I do want to say thank you, however, for having some nice lawn furniture in the backyard because our friend Chuck Foreman from Pro Eagle is relaxing in your yard.
Yeah, you were like, we can't have a podcast studio in your yard. I'm like, they have a place to sit here. There's a nice patio. We can turn on the fireplace out there. It'd be great.
He rolled in. He's like, should I have brought some meat and some stuff to barbecue? 'Cause
Yeah.
he's got a barbecue over here. That would have been fun, yeah.
He's definitely our kind of guy.
And it looks like he brought his wife, Jennifer. So
Well, we'll have them in here in a little bit, but we got to get through the beginning of the show, and that was my my recent trip to go do stuff I can't talk about yet.
wow.
But I'm looking forward to talking about it when I can.
Don't like the tease.
If you don't like the tease and you need a new truck right now, then you need to head on down to your local Nissan dealer where you can check out the Nissan Frontier. So the 2024 Nissan Frontier. I'm partial to the Pro 4X. I know you like the hard body. The basic entry level.
Hold on, wait. You're painting me like as if I don't like the Pro 4X.
No, we're just saying that you like the hard body. You like that retro vibe.
I do. I love the wheels. I love the color scheme. And I'm not typically a fan of like headache racks, even though I'm building one, or like tubular stuff. But that, I got to tell you, it works on that truck really well.
It works well on that truck with the retro vibe, and you can pick a Frontier up starting at $30,510. You can build and price at nissanusa.com. And Lighting, I heard you. When
About
you
what?
slid in your headache rack.
Yeah.
The whole thing, I said you should do a headache rack, and you said no, and then you're building one anyway.
Yeah.
So are you ready to divulge that, or is that under embargo also?
It is not under
Embargo.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to open up a photo because Mr. Matt Gamble just sent me a text. He is still at work late into the evening working on a headache rack for me. And let me show you a picture of the beds. We got some CAD from SEMA. I got the bed and the back quarter of the cab. And let me show you this thing. So what do you think of that? That is
better.
It's better. So it's going to be boxed aluminum. And he's going to design it all out so it can be bent and look really good. And we're going to send it to Send Cut Send. And they're going to send it back to me in pieces. And then I'm going to beg one of our guys to weld it.
The next Banks product.
No. You might be interested to learn that our friends at EGR are interested in potentially mass producing
Well,
these.
it's perfect because that dovetails into their tonneau cover. So that could be a good thing.
It's
do you get
designed
a
to fit the
royalty
roll
on
truck.
that?
I don't really want one.
That's
think
not true. I know you.
I don't care. Matt, however, has spent some hours working on this. I think it might be nice to give Matt a little something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guys at EGR are interested in seeing what we come up with because it's going to slot right into the roll track. So we'll see how this comes out. And if it protects some back windows from being smashed, it also hopefully will provide me with some, if I want to put lights up on top or whatever. We'll see. I don't know how that's going to work out yet, but...
All right. Well, in the meantime, if you want to get something from Banks that's officially sanctioned, you can go to bankspower.com. And what can you purchase, Lightning?
Man, I wish we could talk about the stuff we have coming because we have some really cool stuff coming. And we made a crazy discovery while we were developing a video on one of the new products. And it's going to, you know what we did when we launched the diff cover video series?
Yes.
And everyone said, oh, no way. I never thought about it that way. I never looked at differential covers that way before. We're doing this for another product that I can't say what it is, and it's
something everybody has on their vehicle?
Literally, it's something that you can't have an engine without this. An engine won't run without this thing.
Really?
Yes. We found an issue, an error, a problem with a lot of Duramax trucks that and this is going to solve it. And I'm so excited, and I can't say anything because I'm actually under
embargo.
I'm under embargo.
All right. Well, that doesn't help sell
It
the Banks
doesn't
products
help. No,
today.
but, okay. So something you can get in on is a Ram Air rear differential cover.
Well, I thought you were going to say the Monster Ram because it actually flows more than stock, unlike your rip-off companies that are
did you hear
flowing.
did you
I heard
hear
that
what
story.
did?
I just thought maybe you might want to plug it.
Well, they don't know that story because
Well,
I've kind
okay.
of kept that under wraps.
All right. Well, then listen.
Do you want me to tell the story? Can I tell the story?
Let's wait.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's a good story.
Yeah, I know. Let's wait.
So do you want me to plug diff covers here?
Diff cover's great. Go.
If you've got a Chevy Silverado, a 2500, 3500, or you got a Ram 2500 or 3500, or maybe a Ford F250, go over to bankspower.com, type in your year, make, and model, and find the Banks Ram Air rear differential cover that outcools all high-capacity flatback covers, all your PPEs and ATSs and Mag High-Techs. It outcools all of them and does so with the factory fill level. You don't have to buy 8 quarts just to get a few degrees cooler. Nope. Factory fill level. That'll keep your gears lasting much longer. Easy peasy. Bankspower.com to get yours. Hey, Holman, what's up with AMSOIL?
Well, I was on their website, AMSOIL.com, and I was trying to find out if they make hydraulic jack oil.
I know they have a lot of hydraulic fluids, but I don't know if they make jack oil, do
Because
they?
I know Chuck's coming on, and we're going to talk about how you can buy a Pro Eagle jack and then rebuild it from scratch, and it lasts forever.
We have the AMSOIL hydraulic fluid.
I
that goes in
wonder if
hand
that's
tools.
the same.
It might be.
Huh.
I mean, literally, all of our air tools run on AMSOIL at Banks.
Well, it's pretty amazing. When you go to their website, you can find everything from motor oil, engine lubricants, compressor oil, fuel additives, transmission fluid,
Gun oil.
gear oil, gun oil, bearing and chassis grease, filter, steering, brake, and suspension fluid, antifreeze and coolant, cleaners and protectants, and bar and chain oil. I mean, it's not. I think when you think of AMSOIL, you think of oil changes, and you think of putting training fluid in, or diff fluid, or motor oil, right? And there's so much more.
Can I tell you that my favorite glass cleaner?
Is AMSOIL glass cleaner?
Literally glass cleaner, yes.
They make some great
my
stuff.
favorite product that they make, well, no, that's going to be a tough, because I love the 5W40 Signature Series 100% synthetic oil. But truly my favorite one is Mudslinger. Do you know what Mudslinger is?
Yeah, Mudslinger is something you spray on your UTV or your truck before you go out.
No, my inside of my fenders, dude.
It keeps
You get
all that dirt from sticking.
And whenever you're doing a photo shoot, you spray Mudslinger on everything that's black, and it turns it shiny and brand new looking.
If you have any lubrication needs for your vehicle, head over to AMSOIL.com and check out their line of synthetic products. AMSOIL, #1 in synthetics.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel and the ones that run on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Whoa, whoa.
It's the Truck Show with your hosts, Lightning and Holman.
All right, I think we should probably bring Chuck in here because he's been waiting. And
Hold on, I got Chuck's up. Come on in.
all right, so I'll have you sit over here, and then Chuck will sit right there, and then your mic is going to be here.
Holman, this is weird. We have someone in studio again.
There are two people in studio.
Well, so first we have Chuck Foreman of Pro Eagle, which I'm very excited to speak to because I ran into him at an event about 3 weeks or so ago, and he's like, "Hey, I think I'm going to be on your show." I go, "What?"
Is this the same Chuck Foreman that we've been trying to chase down that you and I have been talking about? Like, we should have Pro Eagle on.
I feel like for 4 years, but we didn't do a very good job of actually reaching out and asking.
I think
for you to be here.
I think it was follow up. Well, what happened was we had OVR, and then we got in a conversation, and then I was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm the old 4-wheeler guy, so I know your stuff." And oh, and I have this podcast too. He's like, I think I've heard of it. I'm like, so anyway, it all came together.
It was so funny that, though, Chuck, I think you were talking to Sean and you were talking to me independently, and you didn't know that we were working together.
I did not. No.
That's
not at
even
all.
better.
Yeah. I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I found this DM and in my request, and I'm looking back through it. And I'm like, I need to re-follow up with this conversation.
And here we are.
I know. And Chuck, you brought some your lovely wife over here, Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you convince her to come down to the pod shed?
I was going to say, how did he convince her to marry him?
Yeah,
well,
that
but
took more work.
she just looked at our gift shelf, and I think she was appalled by what she saw up there.
She was eyeing my Cybertruck.
Well, there's the 3D printed thing in the back of the website. Yeah,
the wiener with the hat on.
Crown.
Yes.
Shouldn't even notice that part.
Right? And the Abe Lincoln. There's a bunch of weird stuff over there.
Yeah, it's just a mishmash of things our listeners have given us over the years. So.
All right. Well, we need to welcome everyone to the parts department. Don't move.
Welcome to the parts department.
Screw, nut, filter, oil, grill, tools, wheels, tires, brakes, lights, gears, belts.
And your wife warns you not to.
Don't you spend our money!
And then you'll want to come back. Did she warn us?
Well, I mean, listen, I want to spend my money.
Yep.
And I thank you for the special delivery that weighed 4,000 pounds. I haven't even had a chance to open it, but I took pictures, so there'll be a little social post that goes up. But on my doorstep was a Pro Eagle jack for
really?
OVR testing, science, doing science stuff with it.
I talked to my guys in the warehouse. I'm like, hey, this has to go out. I'm on a show in a few days. Like, this has to get processed and get sent out.
Oh, we've had plenty of time where the products arrive after we've done the interview.
Yeah.
We've got to do a little theater of the mind.
It's happened. We've figured it out, though.
Yeah.
So, Chuck, you own Pro Eagle, right?
I am general manager at
General
Pro Eagle,
manager.
yes.
You don't. Does that mean you don't own it? Who owns it?
I do not own it.
You don't? Who does?
We are a subsidiary of Austin International. So Austin International is a private label manufacturer. So we build jacks for other companies. We build weight distribution hitches, fifth wheel hitches, leaf springs, all kinds of stuff in the suspension industry. Anybody from Skyjack or FabTech, all those guys are using our product.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So the jack idea was something that I had come from the off-road industry. I started at Austin International in 2010.
So you're the owner of the idea then?
I am the owner of the idea.
Yes, I'm partially right.
Yeah.
Not really, but okay.
Tangentially.
We'll give that to you.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I took the idea to one of the companies that we were currently manufacturing jacks for and still manufacturing jacks for. And they said the off-road industry is too small. Thank you, but no thank you. So I walked out of the meeting and said, you know what, we should do it ourselves. And the next day, the owner, who normally comes in around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, was waiting in his office when I came in that day. And he's like, do you really think that we could do it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'll be your manufacturer and everything else is up to you.
Wow.
All right, deal.
So you created your own startup company,
right?
That you're responsible for.
Yeah, yeah. So up for the last probably, 6 or 7 years, it was just me, and Austin built the product, and I did the rest.
Yeah.
And now we have a pretty good team there. His son started there.
I've seen you in the little trailer at Overland Expo, or trying to get people to learn about the jacks, because as we know, you basically created a category that did not exist. The off-road jack, right? Became hugely popular with racers, with pre-runners, with kind of the go fast recreational crowd for big tires. The jack has big tires on it if you guys haven't seen them before, so it makes it way easier to roll. Also, for shops and things like that have broken concrete or whatever, they're awesome for that. But now there's some competitors have taken notice. So I guess your idea is good if you create something, and then somebody rips you off.
Right? Yeah, now there's two or three now.
Well, before you get to that, let's talk about operating in the vacuum that you created, right? So you had this jack that was unlike any other. There had been, I was in the import car scene way back in the 90s, and I remember when the first couple low-profile jacks, because when we were dropping Hondas and Nissans and stuff like that, or in trucks, minis, you couldn't get a jack under them, right? You have to put them up on wood, 2x4s, and then put a jack under it. And I remember it was kind of the first few low-rider jacks, low-profile jacks came out, and it was just groundbreaking. And then for the next 15, 20 years, there was no innovations in jacks. I mean, they went from like stamped steel to
they got
billet
cheaper,
parts.
to be honest.
Well, they got cheaper, but they went billet. Some of them went really nice.
Well, but look at the OE market. The OE market used to have really great bottle jacks. And a bottle jack is compact. It has a lot of reach to it, and they work really well. And they went to scissor jacks because they're cheaper. It's folded metal, and they're not very stable. So there's been a couple guys out there who said, okay, I'm going to make a better bottle jack, or I'm going to make a replacement, or in some cases, I'll just make a jack base so that the stock jack that you have, doesn't wobble and your vehicle falls off. But there hasn't been like a really innovative, of course, we can go back to, High Lift, which serves its purpose, but
You're being
you
very
have to know,
kind.
you have to know what you're doing. No,
Yes.
they're great tools. They're great implements, but to the uninitiated,
They can be dangerous.
They can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So then ARB came out and they said we've got our cylinder, but then on that it's heavy. You can't stow it on its side. Packaging's hard. All that stuff. And other than that, there hasn't really been. I mean, and who is going to take this little wheeled, caster wheeled jack with them off road? Because the second that you're on,
some have tried.
of course, but then what do? You just basically push a bunch of dirt under it when you
Yeah.
go to try and lift
Yeah.
up your vehicle. Or again, the hydraulics, if they're not mounted, they have cheap seals. Most of these things are made pretty cheap. And the hydraulics aren't in the right spot inside the mechanism to pump it up, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, well, my jack doesn't work," and it's all because you stowed it a certain way.
Yeah, or you
right?
get sand in it,
Dirt,
or
all that stuff.
Who was the first to come out with like the sled that you could like bungee cord onto a standard jack? I saw those, but also that's not no bueno.
Yeah.
And then, so when did you get this idea? When did you have this realization? Were you out off-roading? Were you in Johnson Valley? Or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in the off-road industry, off-road racing. My dad had raced since before I was born, so I just kind of grew up in it. And like you said, there was already jacks that existed that people were modifying. So that was my pitch to that company that we worked with. It was like, hey, we're in the off-road industry, we're buying your jack already, but we're modifying it and we're putting the skid plate on it when you're taking it to your buddy to build an extension because it doesn't have enough travel, enough height, and so on. But nobody's doing that out of the box and putting a warranty with it and all that stuff. When we have this jack that we modified and we go, it doesn't work anymore, and we take it back to the parts store and say, hey, this jack doesn't work anymore.
They don't warrant it. Sorry.
Exactly. They tell you to pound sand because it's not our jack anymore. So, like I said, they saw the off-road industry as, the white fenders, Ford Rangers, and, they're like, it doesn't. I'm like, no. This is anything with taller than stock tires and wheels. Like, it doesn't have to be, an off-road truck. It doesn't have to be a race truck. It's just anything that's taller than stock.
Could be, any grocery getter Bronco for that matter.
Well, it's no different than having a two-post lift and having different height, pucks on the arms, right? Because frames are shaped differently, and AEV on their Jeeps has a jack base that takes up the difference, so they can still use your factory jack. But still, the factory jack sucks, and those scissor jacks that are just pressed metal, they wobble, they don't have a lot of stability to them, they take forever to put things up and down. Hydraulic jack's the way to go, but then not great to use off-road. So to your point, people got in there and said, I'm going to make a better jack. But they didn't always make a better jack.
Right. All they actually did was just build accessories for that jack.
Sure.
So the other internal components were still just a jack that was built to use in the garage.
Yeah.
And ours was that way in the beginning as well. And then everything we learned along the way was, okay, well, these seals don't like heat and vibration and dust and dirt. And the internal components don't like heat and vibration and dirt. And, if it's not a fully filled fluid reservoir, then you get aeration. And there's so many other things that, that we stupid people do off-road wise. And none of that, they didn't care about any of that stuff. So, we, along the way, it's been 11 years now.
So look at the first jack that you guys created that you sold, and then today's jack.
Yep.
Walk us through some of those innovations. I know you kind of mentioned a few of them, but maybe hit the ones that are different and why you had to do it and what you did to solve the problem. Because I don't think people realize, they go, oh, it's a jack with big tires on it. They don't realize there's actual innovation and R&D that went into, to your point, the right seals, the right cylinders, the way it's built, all that kind of stuff.
We
So
didn't
maybe
just
walk
go
us through
get
that.
like wagon wheels or something, and bolt them on and go, done.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, their first jacks didn't have the wheels. It was just a standard jack with the castered wheels. We put the skid plate on it so that it would slide in the sand or the dirt and not sink, but you could still use it in your garage and the wheels would still make it mobile. And it took us a while to get the solid axles and the wheels to hold 6,000 pounds and do it safely. So that was probably a year, maybe 2 years after we started. So the first 2 years, it was just the standard jack.
And how were those selling, those original standard ones?
In the beginning, not very well.
Okay.
Our first off-road expo, we probably talked to, whatever it was. If it was 1,000 people, 900 of them went, you're never going to sell any. Why is that? Well, because I can go buy one at the hardware store at the local tool shop for $50. And I can bolt a skid plate on it, and I can have my buddy build an extension and all that stuff, and then I'm still cheaper than yours, but you're not. that skid plate alone cost more than just my jack.
Yeah.
So if you bought that $50, disposable jack, and then all those other parts and pieces, number one, you no longer have a warranty.
Yeah.
And number two, you've spent more money.
I feel like this is a whole nother conversation about off-roaders because they're kind of like
They're always
they're like Ram owners. Not all Ram owners, but a lot of Ram owners. They think
they trip over dollars to save pennies.
That's exactly right. They think that they can.
Yeah. Oh, I can do it better.
Make something better, cheaper, innovate you.
Yeah.
And it ends up costing them 3x every single time. Whether they had to buy the parts and they had to buy their buddy like a keg of beer. They need to account for the $55 for the keg and like all this stuff they have to do to get it done. Another 2x what it would have cost if they just bought a Pro Eagle.
Right. I love surfing the forums. I see that every once in a while somebody will build one in the garage. And they'll do it from scratch. And
I
buy all the
figured
parts
it out. I have the formula.
Exactly.
Well,
so
what they're not taking into account, Chuck, is that like, what do they pay? What do they get paid at work? Let's say that they're a skilled machinist or whatever they do for a day job, right? They got to be making at least $40 an hour, right? And so they spent 10 hours working on this thing. So like when you do the equation, they lost money, like a lot of money by doing it themselves.
Right. So
now they may have had fun.
Yeah. So if I've seen it 9 times or 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, the guy ends the story with, but if I had to pay my time, then I would have saved money if I just bought the Pro Eagle.
Well, and it's cool because I've been on SoCal off-road recovery group on Facebook and a bunch of the recovery forums and a bunch of just the general off-roading forums. And every once in a while, you'll see that conversation come up. Oh, is the Pro Eagle really worth it? Or, oh, I just got my, insert your Chinese knockoff over here. And it's fascinating because you guys are to a point now as a brand where you actually have brand loyalty, where guys that aren't you are jumping in to defend their reason. Like, no, this is why I got my Pro Eagle. You're going to be sorry you got that. And it's really funny because you can kind of just sit back and go, oh, they got it. You don't even have to get in the fray because you built such a great product. The brand promise it has, extended to the way these guys see the industry, and they're willing to, put their own name in front of it and say, no, great company, great product, your money ahead by doing it.
Right. Yeah. And it's the benchmark that everything's measured against,
Yeah.
Like, is this as good as the Pro Eagle? Is this as good? So
that's a great place to be. Right. Go back to those early days of Off-Road Expo. And by the way, for those of you that aren't in Southern California, that's a pretty big
show.
Event. Yeah, it was like kind of like the benchmark show.
It's a month before SEMA, right? And so a lot of the manufacturers in the off-road industry get together, and it's sort of like a test run for their SEMA booth and kind of the new products, and they'll have deals. And it was a little tiny show in Pomona, Fairplex, which is where the AAA Raceway is, Automobile Club Raceway.
And the big LA County Fair is there.
LA County Fairgrounds and then NHRA Museum. And so it's a big complex that they have the fair there, and they have these big Quonset huts or hangars that they have the show space. So they have a ton of trade shows, and this is one of the bigger ones in our industry.
So go back to that time when you're trying to move those first few pieces and guys are, crapping on your idea, basically.
Right.
How did you turn that corner?
So, again, because my background is racing, we left that show, and of the, however many pieces we sold, we thought, okay, I'm going to use my connections and my people that I know in racing because they'll get it. The garage mechanic guy, maybe it's going to take him a while to get it, but the guys that are actually doing it, working in their cars as much as I am and anybody else that's, a real true enthusiast is, they're going to get it. So I went to those guys and I said, hey, if I were able to help you out with the jack, would you help me out with, photography, put my, decal on the side of your car, let me hang out in your pits and get get pictures. And, oh yeah, of course, and then once they saw it, they're like, okay, this makes sense.
Who were your first racers that backed you?
Actually, surprisingly, RPI Motorsports, which they build bolts, like really high-end aircraft quality bolts. So they run a Class 1 car, and now they have a 10 car and a 1 car.
Wow!
So they were one of the first people to go, yeah, you know what? Let's do it.
And if you don't know, Class 1 is unlimited. It's like a trophy truck, but car.
Right. Yeah. And back, whatever it was 10 years ago, their Class 1s weren't, the stepsister or stepchild to trophy trucks. It was still they were still
they're
pretty
thing.
close. Yeah. So those guys, a lot of the trophy light drivers, Jeep speed drivers, the guys that couldn't necessarily afford to go out and buy all the parts and pieces to build their own, but they went, well, shoot, if you've got one right out of the box,
I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll do it. And then, honestly, a lot of the higher-end trophy truck guys and all that stuff started to take notice. I'm like, hey, what's that?
Because they got jealous because they saw the Jeep Speed guy, and he changed his tire faster than they did on the trophy truck, and they're like, well, wait a minute. That dude has a clapped-out XJ from his garage, and he just changed his tire way faster than I could have. What's the magic there, right?
Yep. There was people that were like, hey, I found a Pro Eagle that was on the race course, and I had to actually stop and pick it up because it was like, oh, that's gold, and I need that.
You started putting serial numbers on those bad boys and ownership info.
And then, the next year at Alpha Expo and then the Sand Sports Show, we had those same people come back through and you know what, you were right. I did buy the other version. I did it myself, and that jack went out. It stopped working. I had to go back to the store, and they told me to pound stand. So I had to buy a new one because all of my bolt-on parts were for that jack.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending more money than I would have if I had just bought yours. You were right.
So how long did it take? Was it that first year where you started to see the corner turn? Because I would imagine you have this idea. The boss says, you know what? I'll bankroll it, make it happen, but it's your baby. And if you fail, that's on you. And have fun. And I'm sure that first show, when you're probably going, oh, crap, this wasn't exactly what I expected in terms of, feedback.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, was he involved at all? Did you have to do the recap? You're like, we got to tweak some stuff, or what was that like? What was that conversation
it
like?
was definitely. You've done enough trade shows where if you don't come back with what it cost you to go there, then you start going, wait a minute, was it worth it?
Hey, Chuck, you heard of this thing called return on investment?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I talked to 1,000 people, and yes, we only sold 100 of them, but 900 of those people, they'll be back. I promise.
Brand awareness.
Sure.
They will. Yeah.
But then they started coming back.
And then the brand grew, and we had loyalty, and to the point where if you had a Ford Raptor and there wasn't a Pro Eagle on the back of it, you didn't really have a Ford Raptor.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to let's talk about how the jack differs from today from the first one with some of the because there's tiny changes like seals and things like that, but this is all stuff that matters. How you can mount the jack, the wheels not being able to hold 6,000 pounds.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you went through. Maybe just go through.
Yeah. So the biggest innovations have been internally into the pump, and then obviously we came out with new models. We had the 2-ton jack, and I know that you can lift an F-250 with a 2-ton jack because you're lifting a corner at a time.
Right.
The American way is bigger is better.
Yeah, of course.
So we had to have a 3-ton. So we designed a 3-ton.
And that is a mamba jamba that is sitting outside the podcast, the pod shed right now.
Yeah. Now, was that a reaction because guys just assumed it wasn't enough, or did you? So you didn't actually need that. You could have thrown it under a 2-ton under the pumpkin in the back, and it would have been ample.
Yeah, because you're doing half the truck basically. Half the weight.
But still, guys are like, I need to lift a semi.
Right. I have a 6,000-pound truck. Yeah. When are you ever going to lift 6,000 pounds worth of the truck, though?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're lifting it in the middle and all 4 tires are going to come off the ground, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a common misconception that people have is that, is this jack, correct for my vehicle? Okay, well, how much does your vehicle weigh? Oh, it's 5,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That's more than enough jack for your truck. Yeah, you're fine. Are you sure? I talked to somebody on the forum, and they say that, if your jack or if your vehicle weighs 6,000 pounds, then you need at least a 6,000 pound
Well, that dude
jack,
has a bowl haircut, so don't listen to him.
Right. Yeah. But I'm not an engineer. I'm just, I know enough about everything to get myself in trouble, and that's about it.
That's how I built this career.
Right. But we've been lucky enough in the last 2 years, we hired internally a hydraulic engineer, and she's helped tons with,
awesome.
We're having this problem, and we've tried these 3 or 4 different options, and so far 3 or 4 times we missed it.
Yeah.
Can you help us fix that? And she has.
How many times has she looked at you and went, no, duh?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are you serious? This is so obvious.
You're like, where have you been?
Yeah. But there's a lot of times too. I don't know if you've been around engineers, like they
all day, every day.
They have a tendency to make things too complicated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm like, no. Like, it doesn't have to have 15 steps. We only need 3.
Right.
It's funny because we had just had this last conversation on our previous interview. We were talking about over engineering. So common people will use that term, over engineering. You say that to an engineer, and they get angry. They're like, there's no such thing.
Right.
There's under-engineering.
Yeah.
There's no over-engineering. We're like, well, for the average consumer, there is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not for you.
But there's also a benefit of cost versus features, right? Like, you can over-engineer something, but
it's going to make the cost so expensive nobody's going to buy it.
Right.
So there's a point of diminishing returns on that. So you have to kind of find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what were the first wheels that you used? And when you jacked up something, did they just like break off or like?
Did they taco? What happened?
Yeah. So most wheels will hold the static load. So getting 6,000 pounds even on your trash can wheel really isn't that difficult if it's standing still. If you drop it or the impact, or that's where you have the issues. So we went through quite a few of, I think that'll work. And then, oh, nope, that doesn't work. Yeah. So the wheels themselves, we went from a 4-spoke wheel to a 5-spoke wheel. But it was just compounds that we kept playing with, trying to find the right compound, the right measure of hardness versus, having some kind of give and flexibility to it.
Because for your jack, there's a lot of guys who have like the garage floor coating that might be the rubber sheets that have like the diamond plate for grip.
Yep.
Well, guess what? A floor jack does not roll easily on that.
Right.
And they have this beautiful garage that has this cool flooring, and their standard jack, they can't get it under their vehicle.
Right.
I mean, we're not even talking just off-road. Just rolling it around your garage with an uneven floor is massively better with a
Well, what is the diameter of the average wheel on yours? 5-6 inches?
It has a 8-inch rear and a 6-inch front.
Damn, huge.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about going through these different composites. It's not like you went to Alibaba, and just went, Chinese superstore and shopped for wheels.
Right.
There was probably nothing out there that you could use. So you had to find a wheel manufacturer? How does that even work?
Yeah. So we had to find a wheel manufacturer, and obviously we had to find it in the same, general location where we were building the jacks, which made it even more difficult. So that was very difficult in finding that. Luckily, that's the good part is Austin spends most of his time at the factory, and he knows everybody that's there, everybody that's anybody, and he's the most friendly person that you ever meet. So he stops and talks to everybody. So everybody is his friend as well. So he was able to go, oh yeah, my friend so and so, like he has a factory and it's down the road here. Let's go see them. And to date, that is really the only part that the other companies have been able to find that place, and they weren't necessarily loyal to us. So that's the only product on the other jacks that is identical to ours because they buy them from the same factory that we do.
Got it.
Yeah. So when you look at those other jacks that are the knockoffs, what component for component, what's different? What makes your jack work so much better? And we've seen all those jacks. We've seen them off-road. We've seen them brand new out of the box. We've seen them work. But we also have seen a very high failure rate or no longevity in service life.
Right. Yeah, I've seen quite a few pictures of them just flat out broken in half. In the beginning, most of our hardware was just mild steel. Nobody leaves their jacks out of their garage in the weather, but when it's bolted in the back of a truck and it stays there 24/7, stuff rusts. Yeah. So all of the hardware had to change over to stainless steel. And, we lasted probably a year or two when it was mild steel. So, but their product is still, for the most part, or at least it was, mild steel. And all of the other internal components that are exposed are mild steel, so they're rusting. They use their aluminum is just has a lot more impurities in it. They use supposedly the same number aluminum that we do, but there's a lot more impurities, which is causing the breakages and stuff they're having now. So that's where they're different. And then, like I said, internally in the pump itself, I'm sure they have access to our jacks just like everybody else does.
Sure,
So they've pulled it apart, and that's why. And I can go back to the company that we manufacture for now, and they still don't use what we use on the Pro Eagle jacks because it's too expensive. It just adds too much initial cost to the product.
Because they're looking at it as a commodity.
Correct.
You're looking at it as a problem solver for a niche that has the money to solve the problem.
Right, and as a niche, you can charge more for it. Guys are willing. It's like a Rolex, right? I mean, guys really want the best. They're going to pay for it, and it's also in small quantities. I would imagine that when you're looking at a jack that's sold in all the Pep Boys or something like that, right? Yeah. You're talking millions of jacks or hundreds of thousands of jacks, and just the cost gets cheap when you're stamping that many pieces of steel or CNCing pallets and pallets and pallets of pieces of anything.
Right.
Like it just gets cheap.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk around it? Can we say who this is? I mean, we don't want to get sued, but like it's the elephant in the room.
Well, I think you just said it. We don't want to get sued. So,
but I mean, we can say it very matter of factly. I was there when it happened at SEMA, and I think that was a very interesting moment because everyone at the show was talking about it.
Right.
So, Harbor Freight has all their new products that they debut, and they've gotten really good at social media. And I think I think it was on Instagram or Facebook, and they posted it, and everyone had an moment. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
They just went after
Myself
the
included.
little guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it, but I heard that you made a beeline straight to the booth. Is that true or is that not true?
I was not there that year, no.
You were not?
No,
Okay.
so we had decided to only go to SEMA every other year.
Right,
and-
so you don't
and that
lose your
was our off
seniority.
year.
Right.
So they went,
yeah.
oh, they're not coming this year. Launched the Jack.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, do you think it was that calculated?
I doubt it, but it was definitely perfect timing.
Yeah. So they launched it and they did their video. And I mean, it wasn't like celebratory, like, wow, good for them. It was, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking for myself and my friends. I don't dislike them at all. I don't know anyone around that company. I think they do a lot of good.
There's a lot of great products there, but
But I would say that when they launched this, we go, well, that's a Pro Eagle. That is not cool, because that is a company that I knew was based in the U.S.
Right.
And I know they are based, but like, you knew what they were doing, trying to snuff out the small guy.
Right.
And that was, and they tout like, oh, we're a father-son company from, like, we're all about small business and all that stuff. And here they are stomping just a big, heavy boot on an entrepreneur.
Right.
Tell me about that moment.
Looking back now, I don't think that I initially took it that way for sure. But I don't think that they came out with a product to target Pro Eagle.
How could they not?
The person that was in charge of their off-road products, the Badlands line, came from Foil Parts. And Foil Parts for a long time had been known for, like, their house brands were, for lack of a better term,
Inspired by other brands.
correct. Yes,
Yes.
It was market research, and they would sell whatever brand it was, and then, hey, that one, we sold a ton of those, so let's have a Smithfield brand version, of that version of that same thing. So I think that that's all that it was. It's just they noticed that, hey, these guys are making waves. There's an opportunity there, and we're going to take an opportunity where it was made. My only problem or issue with it is just that they tried very hard to make it look like ours. For most people, they say, oh, that isn't the Pro Eagle.
and that's got to hurt a little bit.
Right.
Especially since it was your created category. Like,
Right.
This is more of your baby than I was a product manager of this line. We came up with something new. Like, this was actually your baby.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think that they did it, 100% on purpose, but I think that they tried very hard after the fact to make it look like ours so that people would go, oh, well, it must be just like the
They're
other
trying
one.
to create consumer confusion. I mean,
Right.
that's what you do.
Yep.
I mean, they're good at marketing.
Right.
Yep.
And there's a need all the time. I'm a customer of theirs for something.
Sure.
Like, there is a need for a less expensive tool. My only issue is, why do you have to make all of your products a cheaper version of somebody else's?
Right.
Just come up with an original idea. Do something out of the box. They launched a new lighting line that's a direct copy of another lighting line that currently exists. And they knew that, and I think they did that on purpose, is because they're trying to capitalize on, well, if people like those, then let's make ours look just like that. So.
And now, one of the things that we have the 3-ton jack up on the screen here in the pod shed, and you have one of the things is the best warranty in class. So let's talk about your warranty, because that's something that you're proud of. It's also something that kind of defends your position a little bit, because you are going to be a lot more customer centric.
Right. Yeah. We offer a 2-year full replacement warranty. If the customer has an issue, then we send them a call tag. They send their jack back to us. We pay for it. It comes back to us. We find out if it really is an issue, because sometimes the customer just refuses to admit that they're using it wrong. And if it is an issue, we send them a brand new jack.
How do you use it wrong?
Yeah, where you'd be
I don't
surprised.
know. What, do you try and lift up the foundation on a house?
Right.
I
Do you
don't
have
understand.
do you have a fusible link somewhere in your mechanism that bends, and you can tell? You go, oh, the only reason that link is there is if somebody overloads the jack,
Right,
and then you kind of know. Or
I tell her all the time, like, I had another customer that I just wish they would just put it away and call AAA. Like, this guy's gonna get hurt, or he's gonna hurt somebody. So, yeah. But we'll replace the entire jack, and then we have all the parts and pieces for the jack, because we're the manufacturer. So the customer can, if their jack is out of warranty, then they can go on our website and buy any part and piece for it and replace it on their own. So we do repair videos and instructional videos to show them how to do that, and it's easy. And we go to events like King of the Hammers and others, and we're doing all of those repairs, and we do that 100% for free. If your jack just isn't quite working correctly, just bring it to us and we'll put a new pump in it. If it needs to be, change the fluid in it or whatever it may be, we'll do it for you.
Is that like an actual bearing?
It is, yeah. So that was one of the different things that we learned.
Well, we're looking at the wheels. We're looking at the front right
I blew
wheel.
up I blew up the wheels from a photo on their website on the TV in the pot shed.
Yep.
And I look and there's a C-clip that's holding a bearing to an axle. So it's not like your wheelbarrow that has either a really tiny bearing or no bearing at all, where it just sort of rides on a sleeve on like a piece of rod or something like that, or rod stocker. No, this is an actual machined axle that has a bearing that has a C-clip on it that's holding the wheel on.
Yeah. They're like giant skateboard bearings.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they are. Yeah, very, very, very similar.
Are they Swiss?
Yeah,
Swiss bearings, right?
ABEC 7s,
Yes.
man.
Yeah. Oh, the 9s if you're a baller.
Yeah, I was never a 9 kid. I couldn't afford them.
Okay.
Yeah, and coming up with the wheels, and that was one of those things where it was like, what in the world were we thinking? We had made them for, quite a few months.
Yeah.
And, we use them ourselves. And if you use them 2 or 3 times or whatever, and you're not using them in soft sand or dirt, you don't necessarily notice the fact that the bearings are getting caked with dirt until you go to roll it across your garage floor and went, wait a minute, it doesn't roll anymore. Why not? Uh-oh, why didn't we think of the fact that we had to have sealed bearings?
Yeah.
So then they all went to sealed bearings. So,
well, one of the cool things about the new 3-ton jack is it's actually cool looking. Like most of them, you have the frame, you have the mechanism, you have the pump. It all bolts together and goes up and down and does jack things. But this thing almost has body work to it. Like you guys actually designed it so that there was an elegance to a jack, right? You take this really functional tool that people probably ignore until they need it, but when you need it, you really need it, and you made it something that the first time somebody opens that box and looks at it, they go, somebody gave a
right. Yeah. So this one that you're looking at, we're looking on the screen, is our new shop jack. So our 3-ton Kratos is the one that actually has a lot more of the curves and sharp lines and whatever. And that one was going back. Initially the 2-ton jack was just a version of what we were building for the other company, and the 3-ton jack was the first one that was like, all right, we're a clean slate here. Let's start from scratch. So that's the one that we were like, okay, well, how do we make a wedge look sexy?
Yeah.
My inspiration was, like the B-2 bomber and, a Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. And
I can see there's some angles on there.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, well, we can add some looks to it and make it look, not like a wedge like the other ones looked. And then the 1.5 ton came after that, and we're like, well, shoot, we might as well go all the way with it too and make it look like the 3-ton. So,
but the nice thing about that is again, it's the aesthetic. It doesn't look like just a forgotten piece of metal in your bed. It's a piece of almost jewelry that goes with the truck, along with your power tank and your other. There's all sorts of stuff that is functional that guys are bolting to their Molly panel in their bed or whatever.
Well, you were saying earlier, if you had a Raptor and you had a Pro Eagle, that completed the look, right?
Yeah.
And so it is a piece of functional jewelry.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, if you've got it in the back of your truck, and everybody wants their truck to look good, so you might as well make all the products in the back of the truck that are bolted and look good too.
Right.
There you go. Up, didn't go on the screen.
Now, will you anodize them in custom colors?
We actually used to do that a lot, and
No kidding. I was joking, but that's cool.
Yeah, because I was hand building everything. So I would take it all down. We had a powder coat place in Anaheim Hills. I would take it all too, and we did red, white, and blue ones. I would do pink ones for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. We did a lot of that stuff, but I was doing it all myself.
It's too much.
It's too much, yeah.
It doesn't scale properly.
Right. I didn't have the time to do it anymore, yeah.
All my friends that I smoke cigars with, if I get a really bad cigar, I smoke that sucker all the way to the end. They're like, dude, it's a $10 cigar. Get rid of it. It's trash. I'm like, no, I hate it, but I'm going to go all the way through, right? And they're like, why do you do that? I'm like, because some little man in the Dominican Republic put his heart and soul into building this cigar, and I feel like I'm throwing away his effort. So I can appreciate you standing in a garage, bolting the pieces together, because every one of those jacks you touched every single one of them for a while, right? They all had a fingerprint, some sweat.
And you know what's
whatever.
sad is no one appreciates that stuff. You were doing it. When I started my clothing store, they didn't have tagless shirts. That wasn't a thing. And I wanted tagless shirts. So I was buying All Style. They're based out of Anaheim, 1301s. It was a 6.6 ounce shirt, 100% cotton, and they had sewn in tags. And I figured out that if I cut the tag close enough to the hem on the inside of the neck that with a pair of needle nose pliers, I could sift out the rest, and it became tagless. And then I did them all in my garage for a year and a half.
Wow.
Thousands of shirts. Right. I would use my vise and lay it over my vise and had this whole system. And my wife's friends would come over for drinks or whatever, and they would
tag removal party. Woo!
No, they would laugh at me and not participate.
Oh,
like,
you
they
mean
thought
they
I was
they
insane.
had bunko night anyway?
Exactly, bunko. No, they don't do bunko. Yes, they were but winos, yes, but not bunko. So like, I totally hear you, and no customer ever said, "Oh, is that a all-style 1301 with no tag? That's interesting." No one, not a single person noticed.
But they appreciated it when they weren't reaching behind all day because it was bugging them or sticking up past their neckline.
Exactly. And I think it was a person that, I'm going to take credit for it, I don't know this for sure, but the all-style guys, the reps, were based in Long Beach and ours, and I know that he was in the store. I would imagine at some point he came in and goes, "These are all of our shirts, and they don't have tags." And then shortly thereafter, they came out with tagless shirts. You just pull it off, and they screen the tag in and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, but like, I feel your pain.
Yeah. The next step to that was, it would take me an hour to assemble each one of those. Obviously, I couldn't ask the powder coater to plug all the holes and everything in 100 jacks.
So now you have the reamer
so I
out.
have to drill and ream and file
geez.
all the holes out. So it would take me an hour each jack. And they were beautiful. We did like a full run of red, white, and blue ones for the 4th of July, and I still get asked for, hey, can you make me another red, white, and blue one? But
now, were you and Jennifer married then?
No,
no,
boyfriend and girlfriend at that time. But,
okay.
But
were you looking at him like, seriously, that's what you're going to do your free time? I'm dating the wrong guy.
Yeah, she's like, as long as the paycheck clears, I'm good.
Yeah.
But it killed me to see people use them in the dirt. Yeah, it actually killed me. I'm like, oh, that how long that took me.
I know that's what it's for, but it still hurts.
Yeah. So here's this beautiful white jack with red and blue powder coat on them, and like I said, they look beautiful, but it was awful to see them being used.
So I got to know that the company that you're working for, making jacks for third parties, you're making thousands of those things, right? But here you are making like 150 at a time, right? It seems so opposite from the rest of the company that you're working with, all the customers that you have, right? It's polar opposite. How did you justify that?
It was difficult,
just business-wise.
Yeah, it was difficult to justify.
Your guy
to the owner.
who's bankrolling is like, Chuck, really? You're moving 30 of these things?
Right.
I expect you to be doing 30 pallets, not 30 pieces.
Right. Yeah,
but I built every one.
Right. Yeah, but he knew that it was a passion. He comes from the off-road industry too. We actually had met. I used to work for Keystone Automotive, and I was the top salesman for a year, I think it was, selling ProComp products. And he was a manufacturer for ProComp suspension. So ProComp invited their top salespeople down to Baja to go on a wide open tour.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Right, yeah. So we were there, and he was a guest of the owner of ProComp at the time. So we had met, and we talked, and had conversations and everything every night, but I didn't know it was him until years later, and I started there. But so his passion was motorsports and off-road. He has sand rails. He still has sand rails and goes out, every Thanksgiving to Glamis and holidays and stuff. So he very much enjoys it. So he knew that it was a passion, and he also saw the products that we were making, and we deliver full, complete, ready-to-buy products. And he saw that, wait a minute, when we sold that product to them for $30 and they sold it for $300, he was a little bit maybe naive to go like, there's a lot of other marketing and all that stuff that goes into building in that price. It is worth $300. It's not worth $30 to them. So that was the difficult part is building that, like, wait a minute, like, why can't we sell it for $300 and make that 300% profit?
Yeah, because there's other things that go into it.
Right. Yeah. So he didn't mind having a niche product because he wanted to have his own brand, and he knew that there was passion behind it, and he loved it just as much as I did. So he loved walking past a Raptor at the grocery store and going, "Hey, that's got my jack in the back of it." So
does he love it as much today?
He does. Yes. Yeah.
So I pulled up on the screen. The garage style jack is not the only jack that you guys make, and so I wanted to pull up. You guys have the CO2 jacks, which are freaking awesome. I love those things.
Yeah.
A lot of us carry power tanks off road and things like that. So maybe walk us through your CO2 line also.
Yeah. So actually, and that's one that we just kind of stumbled into. The first Phoenix CO2 jack that used to be built by Baja Designs. They had a jack that was called the Quick Jack.
Yeah.
And at I think it was at KOH, just maybe 8 or 9 years ago, they walked through and they're like, "Hey, You guys are the jack guys. You've cemented yourself in. You're the jack guy now. We used to build the jack, and we haven't built the jack in probably 2 or 3 years, and we still get phone calls for it at least 2 or 3 times a month. We don't have any intentions on ever building this jack again. But would you guys be interested in buying the design from us? I took a look at it and went, oh yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I was just in Baja a week before that, and Rob McCachran had one on the roll bar of his pre-runner.
Yeah.
I'd totally be interested in that. And so we negotiated, and we give them
a royalty
on each one that we manufacture.
Awesome.
And which they told us designs, and we've changed so much of the design that it really
it's not theirs anymore.
It's not theirs anymore. And they've seen it since then, and that's what it should have been. You would thread the CO2 into it, and then instantly, as soon as it would pop, it would go full max height.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you wanted to lower it, you unthreaded the CO2, and it would drop just
That's
as
barbaric.
Even now, it's like you look at the Herbst Smith trophy trucks.
Right.
They basically have that upside down in the chassis now, where you hit a button and it jacks the whole thing up on its own. And you're like, whoa.
Well, that's like an F1 car.
Yeah.
But except
hydraulic.
the reach is 3 feet.
Right.
Because you
damn.
have 36 inches of travel, and you've got to get the chassis high enough to change a tire. And so right behind, like where the B pillar would be on a regular car, right in front of the rear wheel, like on Ryan Arciero or the Herbst guys, they have this thing, and you just hit a button, it goes, and the whole truck goes,
Yeah,
and the
you got to
wheels are in
make
the
sure
air.
that there's not a mechanic underneath.
Right.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. But I mean, it's funny that when you talk about jack technology, right? But I mean, there really has been in the last 20 years a lot of jack technology, whether it's CO2, whether it's redesigning the garage jack to make it something that is durable and something you can keep and rebuild over and over again if you really need to.
Right. Yeah. And then we, after that, we came up with the dual stage one. So the issue with the single stage is if you, especially on a UTV, you don't want to carry a 50-pound jack with you when you're out on the trail. So you need the lightest jack possible. So they were carrying that. But the problem was at the time that most of those had a 14-inch wheel and a 30-inch tall tire. So if you had a flat tire, the control arm or whatever chassis component that you were trying to put underneath, it was too low. So it wouldn't get underneath it, which isn't a problem in our terrain out west.
Yeah.
But if you were in somewhere like Moab or something like that where you couldn't dig out, it was an issue. So the dual stage solved that with giving it a lower starting point, but it doesn't go up quite as high.
So think of it, for guys who are listening to this, think of it as your typical shock, and think about it extended in collapse length, and think about the body. What they did was basically shrink the body size so that you could have a lower starting point to get it under the chassis.
Right, and made it telescopic. So it had a second stage, it would come up and.
That has to be like hardened chrome moly, or that can't just be like mild steel. That's carrying a tremendous
stainless
load.
steel, actually.
Oh, stainless, is it really?
And so the outside body is aluminum, and then the shaft and everything inside, all the components internally are stainless steel. Yeah. We have a really good source of stainless steel, and so we have a lot of our jack mounts that are made to carry the jack in the back of your truck. They're all stainless steel as well.
It's nothing worse than rusty hardware.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. What year did you start this again?
2012.
Could you have imagined yourself having an entire website full of jacks and jack accessories?
It was a dream. It was a goal, yes, but I wasn't sure if it would ever happen, but I'm happy that it has.
Look at all the accessories now.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was just on a drive program with Johnny Lieberman, who's got a Rivian, and he was asking me, hey, I need an off-road jack. I don't know what to look at. In Rivians, you can only lift them in 4 places, essentially.
Isn't he too bougie to ever jack his own vehicle up?
Well, I don't know. He probably has people, but look, Rivian jack adapter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and those things are out there. People are using them. Out of all the EV trucks, that's probably the one that's actually out there with people exploring.
And that's turned. That's machined.
It's gorgeous. Look at the made for GM EVs one. There's all sorts of, like, you just scroll down. The mount is really cool. You'll see that on a lot of chase trucks. The jack extension is really cool. Obviously, the jack lock, we're familiar with that.
Pause there for a second on the extensions. So that is something that, I guess made you unique in the beginning.
Right.
You had more height. That was the whole thing. I feel like we haven't even talked about that, right?
It's height and stability.
Height and stability. But so you had, because you were a wider track, correct? How high could you go up? Like, what was the tallest truck you were? Because, like, I'm driving mall crawlers. Could you lift mine, right? Is there a suspension component low enough for me to get to?
Right. Yeah. So it was just one of those like, hey, we started getting calls that it just isn't tall enough. Do you have anything that goes taller? This first jack started out with, I think it was 2 feet of lift height. with our supplied 8-inch extension. And then when the big wheel jacks came out, that added an extra 2 inches of height, starting height. So it had 2 feet 2 inches, and then the 3-ton, because it's a longer body, had 2 feet 4 inches of lift height. You had sandrail guys. You had, shoot a new Polaris is,
And if you're not familiar with a sandrail, the body is really high up and it's flat, so it's all
Right.
like there's really nothing hanging down below the belly, correct? Right. It's just a piece of aluminum that's dead flat,
correct,
with tubular frame rails on the side, and everything is tucked up, so it can go. I mean, what do you jack on
right,
on a sandrail?
Right.
Like, and literally, I don't even know where you jack up a sandrail.
Right.
But it's got to be 3 feet off the ground minimum.
Yep. Yeah, so you've got no suspension components that you can attack from. You can't, lift on a trailing arm because it's at too much of an angle. So you have to go from the flat part of the belly pan, and then if you're lifting from the flat part of a belly pan on a car that has over 2 feet of wheel travel, it's got to go pretty high. And especially if you're doing it in soft dirt or sand, you're going to have some sinkage. So you've lost another 1 or 2 inches of height just because it's sunk in the sand a little bit, which is why our jack has a large plate on the bottom of it. So you've got a larger footprint.
So even if the wheels do sink to their diameter,
base. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, but we got to the point where the cars are just getting too big, and that problem is across the board. Whether it's a Jeep that you have to lift from the frame rail to be able to put a spring back in the pocket, or fix some other kind of steering component or whatever it may be, or it's a sandrail or it's a UTV, that problem is universal. So we had to go taller. It was a 13 inches, and now we found a way to be able to still certify it and keep it safe and go at an extra 2 inches. So now it's a 15-inch extension. And the way our extension attaches is also pretty unique, especially to the guys that have come out and copied it now. From the racing world, if you have a car that comes in there that you need to change an axle or CV joint on, you've got to go to full droop to be able to get the axle out of the car. But if you have a car that comes in with a flat tire, you don't need that extra 15 inches of lift height.
So you can see the extension here in this photo.
I do. So the extension is telescopic. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and then you've got a hardened steel pin that goes through.
Yep.
The way that you would with anything that's telescopic.
Yep.
So what's the tallest one that you offer that extension?
15.
15, and it collapsed. It's what?
8.
8. Oh, dang.
And then the 8-inch one goes from 4 to 8.
So can we talk about one of the things that I'm super excited about?
Sure.
So I've been a long time BFG guy.
Yeah.
And you guys have a cool collab where you are going to be selling BFG, basically the wheels, the tires for the jack.
Yeah, that's one I'm actually extremely proud of too.
It's
coming from
wait. You're saying the plastic wheels on your jacks will be BFGs?
Composite will be a copy of a BF Goodrich
with the tread and all.
Yep.
Yeah, that's rad.
Is it a KM3 or KO2?
KM3.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which is what I have on mine. So I need a set of wheels.
Yeah. We tried to do the KR for a long time, and we couldn't get the mold to release with as intricate as that tread pattern was.
Yeah.
So we had to backpedal a little bit and went to the KM3. Not that that's anything to
I love those tires.
Disappointed
I mean,
about,
you can beat the living crap out of those things. Right. I mean, I've got a 7,000-pound Jeep in the driveway, and KM3s are a fantastic tire.
Yeah. It's something. Here you just riff past the mold release. Like, that is something that only an entrepreneur would have to deal with, or mechanical engineer, or whatever. It's just something that the consumer would never think like, oh, that's kind of neat. It's got a little BFG. And they move right past it. They're like, you don't understand how much work went into that. You don't get it.
But even the collaboration with
there's 20 iterations before we can get to that.
A global corporation with lawyers, and they're protecting their brand IP to have a collaboration like that. And it's like, I'm sure the BFG guys are sitting there going, dude, this works. And then they have to convince everybody up the chain, and then you got to figure out the licensing deal is, and you guys got to come together. And I honestly wonder if, so one of the things we do in OVR is we have the scalar stuff. And so in the scalar world, there's all sorts of these licensing. So I'm wondering if that maybe helped.
What did you just say?
RC trucks, scale RC trucks.
Got it.
But because you can get scale Max tracks and scale BFG tires, and I'm wondering if that helped the licensing, because now these companies are sort of used to having that sort of collaboration partnership where their miniaturized version of their parts are showing up on other things.
They probably have licensing departments, right? That, just do that.
Right, yeah. So one of our longtime customers was a company called Off-Road Tire Guide located out of San Diego. And his company was bought by, and he went to work for Jackson Motorsports. Jackson Motorsports is the retail arm of BF Goodrich. So he's always been a fan. He's always been a customer from day one, believed in them. He helped us to get to BF Goodrich pit support guys who had been wanting the jacks for forever.
Oh, there you go.
And for whatever reason, just didn't buy them.
Yeah.
You know, so they it was a weird circumstance. But so he connected us with all the BFG pit support guys. So they had the jacks that they always wanted and they loved, and they've been using them for the last 10 years and all of their pit support stuff, from anything from the U.S. all the way down to Baja and everything. So that definitely helped to grease the wheels. 2 years ago, I learned early on that in the motorsports world, nobody's going to get me any media or footage or anything to be able to post on social media if I don't get it myself.
Yeah.
I went to the races and I stopped the racing myself just so that I could walk through the pits and get pictures of my product being used, so that I had content for the next week or month or whatever it may be.
Or they charge you. Still to this day, it's the craziest thing. Like, I don't know, like in other industries, you can just go find photos. But it's like, well, there's Hollywood. If it's a red carpet, there's paid Getty photographers. And if you want a picture of XYZ star, you got to pay for that photo and the rights and all that stuff.
Right.
And it's the same way with off-road events. There's always a paid photographer, and they watermark the snot out of their photo, and you can't get, unless you pay the guy, $150 or whatever for that photo.
Right.
But you can go take yourself for $0.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I did. I drove to all the races. I went to the races in Baja. I went to the races here. Every race I was at, I was walking through the pits taking pictures. And people were like, "Hey, it's a Pro Eagle guy. Hey, come take a picture of my car." But I also knew, being a racer, that when a car comes in and it's all hands on deck, the last thing you're thinking of is taking a picture.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
So I was in the BF Goodrich pit and I was taking pictures while cars came in there. And I just so happened to have somebody that was pretty high up the chain. And I said, "Wouldn't it be cool if these had mini BF Goodrich tires?" And he stopped in his tracks and he went, "It would." Let's talk about that.
Nice.
So
there's a lot of business that happens on the side of the race course in Baja.
It's kind of like a golf course.
So we had hit a couple dead ends, and it was a little bit more difficult than it sounded that day. And so then I got back a hold of the guy from Off-Road Tire Guy, who was still at Jackson, and he's like, "No, let me put you in touch with the right guys." And so we had a conversation, a Zoom call with the guys back in where are they at?
South Carolina.
And I know about Pro Eagle. I've heard of you guys, whatever. We'd love to work with you.
Awesome.
And so we've talked to some other people in the licensing industry and people that have also worked with BF Goodrich.
Yeah.
And they're like, you've been working on this for 10 years, right? No, it's been less than a year.
They're not an easy company to work with.
Right, yeah, because they were just as excited as we were, which has been tremendous. Like, really? Like, you're excited to work with us? Like, okay,
all right,
cool.
let's go.
Yeah. So they've pushed stuff through. They fast-tracked stuff for us. It also helps that, it's not a fully BF Goodrich branded product. It's just a representation of their product on my product.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't compete with anything they make.
Right.
So that's great.
Right.
It's an extension of their brand. Yeah. That's congratulations.
Yeah.
Just wait till those other guys have the GF Bud Rick on their jacks.
Right. And they're chomping at the bit. They're like, "We can't wait until somebody tries to knock this off, because
we're going to sue the pants off of
we
them.
have much bigger lawyers than you can afford, and we're going to go for it."
BFG's a subsidiary of Michelin. They just open up a cabinet and there's like just a string of lawyers hanging up. They're like, "Oh, 10 of them will do," and they just all slide right out of their lawyer cabinet.
Yep. Yeah, we've joked about it. They're like, "Okay, well, they're going to come to the next event with Ling Long tires on there or something."
Yeah, right. So one of the things that you guys talk about is jack safety, and so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. There's a lot of products out there. There's lots of school of thoughts, and there's lots of people who are risk takers.
Yep.
And at the very
By the way, I just sent a photo to Dave, our social media guy, and it is a guy with a truck jacked up. There's two jacks lifting the front of the truck, but between the jacks there are 4 cinder blocks. So there's 8 cinder blocks total lifting this jack up. And he's just under there wrenching. I thought, oh my God, you need a Pro Eagle.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my, it's awful.
This is what I don't
and you
understand.
just see, like, it's going to crumble, like cinder blocks.
But here's the thing. You use the jack, right? And there's all these people that are like, "Oh, I'm too lazy to get my jack stands," or whatever. So they're just going to use the hydraulic jack, and there's going to be a leak down. And as the seals get old and your
gonna droop.
truck is starting to fall while you're under it, you took the tires off. Just put them under the frame. Like, at the very least, if you don't have a jack stand, You pulled the tire off and it's leaned up against the wall behind you. Put that sucker on its side and put it under your frame. At least then you
they don't
want to
mess up the rim. They'd rather
you
have their
don't
head
mess up the
crushed.
rim. No, you don't mess up the rim. You've got the tire bulge and it sits on that. But at least do that, especially if you're off road and you're on the trail or something like that. Like just take your tire that you already removed and then just put it under there so that you don't get crushed. Because nobody wants to turn a flat tire into a medevac.
Yeah,
like, that's not cool.
Well, so talk us through some of the oddities you've run into,
and proper usage.
And I mean humans as oddities, like the freak shows that you're like, why did you use it like that?
Yeah,
guy trying to jack up a gas tank. You know what I mean? Right through the plastic.
The most fun, like I get that all the time. We go through, again going through the pits, and that was a internal issue that I had. I'm like, should I try to help this guy to be more safe, or do I need to get the picture that I need to get?
Yeah.
So I walk through and I watch him, they've got 3 guys laying underneath the truck and 2 guys standing there going to get tools for him or whatever, and nobody's thought about, can you just push the tires underneath that vehicle so it doesn't fall? So I do it. I push the tires underneath there, and generally the guy's like,
they look up and go, oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's the Prodigal guy. Yeah,
okay.
Why didn't you guys do that? But one of the most fun parts of that is when they use the jack as a third wheel or whatever. I have some good friends that run Baja tours, and they've had a number of cars that have ripped a corner off of it, and they're miles from the nearest trailer or access road, and so they strap the jack to the axle of the truck and they drive out. Yeah, we had the first person I saw that did that. We do it all the time. Like people, block me in. We used to live in downtown Long Beach, and
you're moving cars left and right.
Yeah, I'd come out and like, dang it, somebody blocked me in again. So I just get the jack out and move their car for them out in the middle of the street, so they knew they got the message, and then I'd go to work that day.
By the way, that deserves a bell.
Yeah. But
so wait, I'm trying to wrap my head around them strapping the jack to,
so think about
the hub.
Yeah. So think if your wheel blew off because you hit a rock.
Yeah.
And you just have a spindle sitting there.
Yeah.
You basically jack the jack up and then strap it to it, and then you use the Pro Eagles 4 little composite tires to be your new wheels.
Does that work? I mean, it works if it's hard compact, but if it's sand, you're going to trench it.
Listen, it's better than
it works.
It works.
Yeah, it's better than having
joke.
your spindle dragging on the ground.
Yeah, we have it's one of the more popular videos on our Instagram, but scroll back through and look at it. There's a Ford Raptor in Baja, and it's in really soft dirt, and it's also mixed in like some volcanic rock and whatever. They strap it to it. Obviously, it started off on top of the dirt, and as soon as they moved, it went down into the dirt, and it starts pushing the rocks and everything and the sand out, and then it pops back up, just like riding a surfboard or something like that. Like
you was doing a duck dive?
Well, it feels like
exactly.
the guys that do that with jet skis, right? Sea-Doos under the water come up.
Yeah, and it pops back up, and they drove it on that jack for 6 miles.
Dang.
Yeah, to the nearest.
Is that
road.
covered under warranty?
That is not covered under warranty. Yeah.
Well, it is a good durability test for your wheels, though.
That is, yeah. And the only thing that failed on it was one of the straps came loose and wrapped itself around the jack and the axle, and then it started dragging that one wheel of our jack. And so that one is pretty flat spotted, but the other 3 are still fine. So, but yeah, that was one of my favorites. But the first person that did that I saw do that, at least in posted on social media, was in Canada. And they had broken a Jeep XJ, and they were way back into the woods. And they had like, okay, well,
try and do that with casters.
Yeah. That's pretty damn inventive.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, how are we going to get this out of here?
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, why don't we strap this jack that's made to roll so much easier to the axle of the Jeep and see how far we make it? And they made it all the way out and back home. So, yeah. So that was the first person I saw.
They're going down the highway at 55 going, that's fine.
Right, yeah.
Sparks coming
Temporary
off.
spare, no problem.
I mean, what?
They don't really mean 20 miles an hour at 45.
No, wait a minute. What's your speed rating on those little wheels?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's one of the things is we say. We say in the instructions, do not use the jack as a dolly. This is a lifting device only.
Do you really have to say that in the instructions?
We do have to say that, yeah. So unfortunately, it's a line we walk, and do we show this on social media knowing that we're telling customers not to do it, but it's too cool not to?
Yeah,
so,
you have to. You have to.
Everybody gets
So, but more go back to jack safety. I feel like there's more points we have to talk about. Like where, if you don't have an obvious jack point, what do you do? Because again, we talked about the sand rail.
Yeah.
I still don't fully know where you would jack up a sand rail. You just like, what do you do in that case?
Yeah, so that one's, like I said, it's made to have a flat bottom so that you can skim across. And, if you bottom out or skip or whatever, you're not going to have something that's going to grab the sand and stop you. So you'd lift from that flat bottom of the vehicle.
So it's like where the aluminum meets a cross member,
Yeah,
or like a
correct.
tube.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
got it.
two frame, but then you would use like the Pro Eagle has like the round disc
With like a
that's
hard
flat.
rubber puck or
Yeah,
something.
and then that puck would go right
Okay.
up against a cross member.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Or of the two frame.
Yeah, and we have some new accessories now that's parts that would attach to a lower axle or a tube or a bumper or whatever it may be. But for the most part, it's just whatever flat component that you can get to. I always tell people lift from the lowest part possible and the closest to the ball joint or the hub possible. There's some angles on suspension and stuff like that. You just can't do that. But on a straight axle truck, you can get pretty far out to that ball joint or kingpin or whatever it may be.
So if you can go to that lower control arm all the way out, do
all
it.
the way out as close to the ball joint as you can, because you want to lift the least amount possible. The
Okay.
higher you go, the more unstable it gets.
But you got to make sure though that it doesn't slip off, and because that lower control arm, let's assume it's got an angle on
That's
it.
why
right?
you're going to go at the bottom of the spindle of the ball joint, because usually
'Cause it's flat.
There's a flat
piece.
spot there. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, the downward angle of full droop is going to not give you a place that you can get a firm
perpendicular flat.
a flat edge to be able to pick it up.
Yeah, that's why, other than crawling underneath the vehicle and, on your hands and knees and putting a bottle jack underneath there, that's why generally those are a little bit safer to use than most other jacks, just because you can lift a couple inches rather than, feet that you would do with a farm jack or something like that. A farm jack, you have to attach to a steel rock slider or a steel front or rear bumper. And you've got to lift through all the wheel travel of the vehicle before it pulls the tire off the ground. So on a decently built Jeep, your bumper could end up being 4 feet in the air before the tire even comes off the ground. So you've got a vehicle that's, mostly 4 feet in the air as you're trying to change the tire and work
I've
on
seen
it.
On
some
a
of
small
those
jack
Jeeps,
base, right? Which is not great for stability.
Down in Huntington, I think, Holman, when you and I were there last time for Jeep Beach, they had the articulation contest or whatever it was, where they have two different bars that they drive up in it. What is it called? There's a name for it.
Well, there's a ramp travel index test where it's a ramp travel cart, or there's a
one is fully drooped out and one is squatted up.
Metal Cloak has a hydraulic trailer you can drive up that does that.
Maybe
too.
that's what it is. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What is the price range for a Pro Eagle jack? For entry level, which is still better than anything you'd get at your competitors, right? To the top dog.
Yeah.
Max travel, highest capacity.
So it's funny that initially the one that came out without the large wheels on it, initially we were $250. And that's what people were like, oh my gosh, like there's no way you're ever going to sell one of those at $250. Now we don't have anything under $299.
Yeah.
So the 2-ton big wheel starts at $520, $530. The 3-ton is $599. The 1.5 ton is like in the high 400s. And then we just released a shop jack. So in doing research, I found out that the people that weren't buying my jack weren't necessarily buying my jack because they didn't want a Pro Eagle. They bought it because I'm using it in the garage. I don't need to have a skid plate. I don't need the extension. I don't need all that stuff. But my garage, I live in Arkansas or Oklahoma or whatever, and it's asphalt.
Yeah.
Or my driveway is just not a perfect driveway, and I just can't roll a traditional jack through there. I love your guys' jack, but I can't justify
This is
spending.
why I
It's
wanted.
too much
Right.
jack for me.
This is why I wanted one for Banks,
Right.
and we don't have one because we've got 3 bays. Holman's seen it a million times. We've got 3 bays outside, and we blacktop every 3 to 4 years.
They actually hire 4 dudes, and all they do is pick vehicles up in the back.
Yeah,
It's
right.
crazy.
Linebackers. No, but like we what do you call it? The re-asphalting? It's there's a name for it.
Slurry.
Slurry. Thank you. So we will re-slurry every so often.
Right.
It's quote unquote smoother, but it's still, if you take the little tiny wheels on, it just crappy jack. Oh yeah. Oh my God. And it sounds, and it squeaks, and it's it's awful.
Right.
So we need those
Yep.
badly because we're lifting stuff out all the time because our lifts are taken. And anyway, so I can imagine now that you say that, it makes perfect sense that the guy with gravel or just uneven surfaces, whatever.
Yeah. So I don't have a need to take it out into the dirt or the sand, but I do work in imperfect conditions, and I need something that rolls easier. But I can't justify the fact that your guys have the built-in skid plate and all these other accessories that I don't necessarily need. So that's why I bought the other brand, because it was cheaper, less expensive. in the end, it ended up costing me more money. But, initially, it's an easier pill to swallow. So that's why we came out with the shop jack, which is it starts off lower. It can be used on compact cars. It doesn't have a skid plate. It doesn't come with an extension. It doesn't have some of the other accessories that we have made a name for ourselves in the off-road industry built into it. So,
but again, they don't need them,
right? But it also has a much lower price point.
It's for $299, that's a hell of a jack, especially. Right. So you can go to proeagle.com and you can go under parts and like anything you would need: wheels, the hydraulics, the replacement pump, the handles, axles. I mean, on and on, the pads, the extension pins. If you happen to lose your extension pin, your wheel C-clips, all that stuff, you can buy individually and rebuild that. So you could basically buy, I mean, we probably shouldn't tell people this, but you could buy it once and just keep rebuilding it.
Yeah. Yeah, we see people at King of the Hammers that have, like, weren't you here last year? Like, yep, I just want to, get the fluid changed in it, or whatever. And I'll be the first one to admit that we don't build a perfect product, especially the way that people at KOH and the racing industry abuse them. But that's why we're there. Is you can abuse the crap out of it, right? And we'll take it. Number one, it's a customer service issue. We're rebuilding it for them. Now they have a working product, but we take the guts out of that have failed, and we take it back. And Molly opens them up, and we find out, why did this one fail? We thought we solved that issue. We thought we fixed this issue. Is it something new, or is it this guy just dropped it out of a helicopter? What happened to it, and why did it stop? So that's the biggest reason that we go out there. I mean, we say that it's customer service and it's a great service that we offer, but it's more research for us to figure out how we can make them better.
What do you suppose the percentage is of guys like me who would buy them because it's cool and I don't really need that much jack?
In the beginning,
0%. All of his customers are 100% committed to the product.
Yeah. In the beginning,
I would say
no posers.
Well,
you're making fun of yourself, which is great.
Yeah,
but you're also. Let's not.
No, I'm saying like he knows that he's got a large portion of the real racers that need it. It's an arrow in their quiver. Right. For me, it's just in my the to have it in my garage. That's just like, so my buddy comes over drinking beers. He's like, "Damn, Pro Eagle makes one for your shop. That's rad." How much? Just like they know it's the premium product.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, in the beginning, there was probably 50-60% of our users were people that just bought it for the social status of it. And now that's probably much lower than that. 10 to 15% are buying them just because it's the coolest thing to have. But we have quite a few people. I had a call from a guy just last week who went into the previous mentioned knockoff company, and they do a really good job of, they had a giant poster there that says, "This is ours," and it's $329, and this is theirs, and it's $599. That's it. It's just price.
Yep.
So he was like, "Okay, well, that's great, but is this the right jack for me and my purpose and my needs?" Well, we have a smaller jack if you want that. Okay, well, will a smaller jack work for what I need? And he tried to explain what he needed, and he's like, "Well, I don't know. All of our jacks are on this aisle. Pick the one you want and buy
He's
it."
just a minimum wage salesperson that's stocking the aisles or whatever.
Right. So he was like, "I didn't know that you guys existed." He was in Idaho or something like that, and he's like, they did a very good job of saying this is a knockoff of the Pro Eagle. So I left and I did a little research, and I found you guys and I found your website. So I'm going to tell you right up front, and I'm calling you to find out which jack you recommend for my vehicle. I may go back to Harbor Freight and buy the cheaper jack, but I want to know.
Well, talk to me.
All right.
It's almost like they're building brand awareness for you.
Right.
Because people are going into there going, "I didn't know there was another guy."
Right.
Well, hold on a second. I got my Harbor Freight coupons, and they're shaking in my fingers, but I want to go see what they're copying and how good they did, right?
Exactly.
So you're probably going to get some customers just from a brand awareness from your competitor talking about you.
Yeah. So he explained what he did, and he worked for the power company. He was a subcontractor. He had a utility body GMC 2500, and he's like, "Look, I'll probably never use this, but there's plenty of times where I'm 65 years old. I am out 50, 60 miles away from help, and I want to have something that I can self-recover if I need to."
Yeah.
So what is the right jack for me?
Oh, he's got a corporate card.
Yeah.
He can buy your jack.
Yeah.
It's fine. We like those people.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I then taught him that, you don't need to have the 3-ton jack. You can get away with the 2-ton jack. If you're 65 years old and you've got bad knees and you've got arthritis and whatever, do you want to lift a 68-pound jack or do you want to lift a 55-pound jack? The 55-pound jack sounds much better, but will a 2-ton lift my truck? Absolutely. You know, how much does it weigh? It's 6,500 pounds. Are you lifting the whole car at once or just a corner at a time? No, just a corner at a time if I have a flat tire. If it's more than that, I'm calling somebody. But if it's a flat tire, I'm lifting one corner at a time. That's nowhere near 6,500 pounds. No, you're right. Okay. What do you guys have that I can carry it safely in my vehicle? We make a stainless steel mount for it. You know?
You make so you've got a bag for it. You've got a jack cover.
Right.
You even have cleaner and detailers.
Right. So we went through the whole process, and he's like, "All right, I'll give you my credit card. You know, I want to place an order with you right now." So he ended up buying the 2-ton jack, stainless steel mount. It comes with the cover. It comes with all the accessories. We make a toolkit, or actually we partnered with Boxel Tools, and we make a toolkit that fits in the mount between the handles, so that it's just the minimum amount of tools that you'll need to change a tire. It's a breaker bar, 3 sockets, and an extension. That's it. And you can't buy just a single socket when you go to any parts store. They sell you a whole kit. You know? So he's like, oh, that's a killer deal. I don't have tools to be able to change a tire anyway, so add that to it. You know, and he bought some cleaner, and he bought a couple other accessories.
That's awesome.
And he probably felt good because he had a human contact, right? Like the human experience. And, and he
went, son, you know what you're talking about. I want to buy something
Take
from
all
you.
my money.
Right? But it's just like, I love the fact that, again, I'm going to go back to, you work at a much larger company, but here you are as the GM of this brand talking to the dude, talking to the customer.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen much these days.
Right. Yeah. I've listened to quite a few things, and, you know, even the younger guys now, you know, I hate to say it, I listen to different podcasts too, but Donut Media guys. So listen to them.
I was just at Donut with Gail Banks.
Right. Yeah.
He's coming out on Mechanics. What is it? Real Mechanics.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. We just shot an episode with them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. But he's like,
funny as hell, by the way.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna love it.
I wish
mechanic
corporations.
stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's called mechanic stuff.
He's like, I wish corporations would realize that we need humans back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to press 1 for English and get somebody that doesn't speak English.
Right.
I don't want to get a machine. I don't want to get an automated service. I'm the guy yelling in my phone saying, talk to a representative.
Yeah, right.
So he's like, it's awesome to get companies that have representatives.
It's like going to the parts department and the old guy in the back who knew every part number.
Right.
Like, now we don't sell parts. We replace modules.
Yep.
Like, that whole thing comes as a module, and there's so much waste, and it's all designed not to last anymore, and it sucks. Like, I worked the parts counter for a couple dealerships for 3-4 years. And I miss the old guy teaching me. Like, I still remember, like, the Ford FL1A oil filter that fit, like, almost everything, right? I'm just, like, there's part numbers that are in my head from when I was out of high school.
You wish you could get rid of?
Yeah. I mean, they just take up space that could be, like, other things, like my anniversary or something.
Right.
Other important details in my life.
Those don't matter.
FL1A, though. I know an oil filter to get you.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we add that customer service and that human element back to it. And, go back to that story, the guy spent $300 more than he would have if he had bought the Harbor Freight Jack, and he was happy about it. Yeah.
Where did the name Pro Eagle come from?
So we actually, there was a in-house brand of fifth wheel hitches and weight distribution hitches. So we were building those 30 years ago, and it was called Eagle Pro. So those other companies that we manufacture now came to the company previous to me being there because they were manufacturing. There's actually very little companies now that manufacture. Everything's farmed out to other companies. Even in the jack industry, there's really only maybe 5 or 6 companies that build product. They may not even have their own brand, but they build product for other companies. So they came to Austin International because they were already building fifth wheels and weight distribution hitches, and it was Eagle Pro. And to me, that just didn't sound right.
Yeah.
So we changed it to Pro Eagle. So
there you go.
Yeah. So it already existed. And then if you own a Ford Super Duty or a Jeep or anything like that has a drop pitman arm, go out and look in your driveway, lay underneath it, and look. The drop pitman arm probably has a little eagle laser engraved on it.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and that was ours. It's an Eagle Pro drop pitman arm.
Well, check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys want to find out more, proeagle.com, or on Facebook, it's Pro Eagle Jacks. Instagram, pro_eagle. You guys have a YouTube page. There's a lot of cool content. If you go to the About on the website, there's our story, and then there's review videos, frequently asked questions, cool stuff from King of the Hammers. Like you could get lost on the website.
How about just go there and buy something?
We'll do that too.
Support your boy here.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you call them, you get real human.
You're going to talk to Chuck?
I'm going to be able to tell you more than the jacks are located on all three.
There you go.
I think, though, that after this podcast, they've learned about all they need to know that to make this purchase decision.
Yeah.
I think so.
All right.
I hope so.
Well, ProEagle.com, do it.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was excited about this one.
Jennifer, everything okay? Sitting over there? Not bored stiff? Okay.
Wow, all right.
All right, here comes Holman, the Wall Street Journal of Truck News.
What's new in trucks?
We need to know.
What's new in trucks?
We need to know.
What's new in trucks?
We need to know.
Lifted, lowered, and everything in between. What's happening in the world of trucks?
Was that the little piece of poop from
No, that's Mr.
South
Hanky.
Park?
That's Mr. Hanky.
Howdy ho.
That's pretty good, Mr. Hanky.
Girl.
Wow.
Hold on.
It's not the first time you've done
hold
that.
on.
I'm Mr. Hanky. Want to get?
No,
That's pretty close.
Tally's the one that gets high, right?
Yeah, Tally gets high.
I'm Tally. Want to get high?
You do a better Mr.
Mr.
Hanky.
Hanky. I haven't heard Mr. Hanky in a long time. I don't know. Anyway. All right. Lots of news going on. We can start with Ford.
Have I heard?
No, you haven't heard this.
No, and I don't care.
No, I haven't heard.
Hey, Lightning, have you heard?
No.
But did you hear?
I have not heard. If it's Ford, it's got to be bad news. Is it a recall?
Well, no, well, actually, we have that too. But I was going to
Okay.
start with the fact that Ford is, well,
Making a 720 horsepower Raptor that you're hucking through the desert?
well, according to Bloomberg, Ford is reportedly losing $100,000 on every EV it sells right now.
No, that's what they're saying. No, what? They're losing how much?
Over 100,000 per vehicle.
How does
That's a lot of, that's a lot of cheddar
Wait a minute, $100,000
because it's being treated like a startup. So there's a lot of investment going in and R&D and all that stuff, and they haven't recouped it yet. And so as they are bringing up their vehicles, investment, selling them, it's a slow burn until they get to a point of parity. So, it sounds bad. It is bad.
It is bad.
Ford is definitely cutting back on some of their future EV goals, I guess. But Ford EV sales were up 86% through the first quarter of the year. So obviously that's still a tiny, tiny, tiny part of what Ford sells. Currently they have 20,223 models sold for the Mach-E, F-150 Lightning, and E-Transit all combined.
Which one do you think is the worst performer, or which one is the bigger dud? Or the bigger, I guess.
No, I don't think you can say that because it's supply chain. You don't know. I would say that the Mach-E sells the most, F-150 in the middle.
I'm just thinking it seems like the F-150 Lightning, it plateaued really quickly and then fell off. People were like, well, this is super cool. I'm over it. No one's buying it.
Well, I think there were a number of people who were the early adopters, so they picked theirs up early.
I don't see any Lightnings on the road.
There's one on my street over here.
Okay.
And there's one
Really?
over here. I've got two neighbors with them. I saw 4 or 5 on the road today coming back from Palm Springs. They're out there. You just have to look for them.
I do look for them.
Well, the thing is that if you catch them around the corner of your eye, they look like just a regular old F-150. You gotta see the grill.
Trust me, I know them. They're pretty obvious, right?
At night, they're obvious because
no,
they have
in the
that
daytime,
crazy
they're obvious.
eyebrow.
I'm just not seeing that many. I don't think they're selling that well. I see a lot more Mach-E's, I'll tell you that for sure.
So according to this here, it says that Ford sold 7,743 Lightnings in Q1 of 2024.
Okay, well, that explains why I haven't seen that many on the road.
Increase of about 80% from last year at this time. So Q1 of 2023, which was 4,291. For comparison, GMC's Hummer EV sold a whopping 1,668.
Ouch.
So now who's selling all the EVs? All right, hey, Lightning, have you heard?
No.
So speaking of alternative fuels, apparently Rams HD is going to be coming to market with a hydrogen fuel cell.
Really? So that's what's going to replace the Cummins 6.7 liter.
Don't know why you keep saying that.
Interesting.
I don't know why you say that.
Just trying to plant the seed. You know why I say that?
Because you hate people.
No, because
hate our
I
audience.
Ford guys love Fords.
If they have fuel cells,
GM guys,
do you think they'll call it fueling cells and add
See
the
what you
G?
did there?
Yeah.
Like GM guys love their D-Max, but Cummins guys
Don't love anyone?
I'm saying they love Cummins more. They're the guys getting tattoos.
So why
You know what I'm
are you like poking the bear?
Because I just think it's going to be amusing when there's no more Cummins in the Ram. At some point it'll happen, right? I don't know. They're going to cry themselves to sleep every night.
And you're gonna
Or it's
enjoy their tears? Like, what are you saying?
I think so. A little bit.
Truckshowpodcast@gmail.com if you want to share the same hate that Lightning has for you, Cummins
I think
owners.
you're going to say, I love my truck. If I own a Cummins powered Ram, you're going to, I'm never going to sell this. I'm going to go to the grave with this thing. I'm going to be buried with this truck, right? But what about all the new guys? They want to upgrade and they can't, because how dare Ram replace the beloved Cummins? Hasn't happened yet, but I think it will.
All right, moving right along. Hey, Lightning, have you heard?
No,
No, I haven't.
Apparently, NHTSA has opened a probe. 200,000 Ford Super Duties for a fuel leak risk. So apparently there's a preliminary investigation or evaluation into 210,960 Ford Super Duties, F-250s, 350s, 450s, and 550s with the 6.7 that goes from 2015 to 2021. 27 complaints have been received, including 12 reports of fires and 4 injuries. Normally when you hear about these recalls, they're caught before anyone gets hurt, right?
Hey, wait, listen carefully. Hear this? Listen carefully. I can hear their accountants all the way in Michigan.
Well, if they're...
The accounting department's like, seriously, not again!
Yeah, they're just not having a
Someone
great...
get me an engineer on the phone. Why do we keep having to shell out money for all these fixes?
Not having a great time when it comes to recalls right now, that's for sure. And I swear they build a good truck.
They do.
I don't understand.
I love the new Super Duty. I couldn't love it more.
I know, but here we are. Here we are. Hey, Lighting. Have you heard?
No, I haven't.
Turns out Ineos is seeing some success, and they're talking about offering 2 more SUVs and may build a U.S. factory.
Will they name them after other childish drinks?
It's named after a pub.
Oh.
Which is not a childish drink. It's actually an adult beverage.
Grenadine.
It's not the Grenadine.
Oh.
I think it would be cool. They're cool.
I'm seeing truckloads of them headed down the 605 freeway ever so often.
More than you see Lightnings?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
I legitimately am.
Hey,
I almost couldn't get that word out. That was strange.
And
yet, here it is.
Here it is. Hey, Lightning. Have you heard?
No.
I want to open this portion of the news with stupid idiots being stupid. And Are
you going to talk about me?
I wasn't, but now I have a third story. It just seems like the world is full of stupid a-holes who have no respect or sense or any of that. So
how are you going to discuss the woman in the Mercedes in the fast lane in front of me all the way to your house this afternoon?
No.
She just stacked. There's no one in front of her for 2 miles and just stacked 100 cars, and everyone just goes around her. She won't move.
I am not.
That's her.
I'm going to talk about some stupid person between the time of April 1st and April 24th went off highway where they shouldn't have been in Death Valley, got stuck, and then winched off a historic, basically from the salt tram. So the Saline Valley salt tram that goes up to like Cerro Gordo.
Yeah.
So the tower number 1 that's down on the lake bed.
No.
They used it as a winch anchor point and ripped it down.
No.
Stop doing the stupid things. That's why we can't have nice things.
Let me see this photo. Hold on.
Ripped it right straight to the ground. Pulled the concrete mounting out of the mud and everything.
Is there...
So check this out.
Did they catch the person?
This tower was put in place by the Saline Valley Salt Company in 1911. It's part of the 13-mile aerial tram that carried salt from the Saline Valley to the Owens Valley, climbing more than 7,000 feet with grades up to 40 degrees. It was an impressive feat of engineering back then, and some of the remnants that exist, like this tower, are there for people to enjoy the history. And what the freak is going on? Some dude gets his thing stuck.
Well,
and then
can I ask,
wishes
well,
off it.
do we know that for sure? Or was it
Yes.
someone who just pulled it down? Because, like the kids up in Utah that defaced one of
No.
those
The
rock...
NPS seems to think that it's somebody. There's, I guess, some sort of markings on it that makes them think they connected a winch to pull them out because there were ruts and clearly where a vehicle was stuck in front of it. And anyway, so it's just sad.
Is there a conservancy that will help rebuild it or prop it back up?
The
or-
National Park Service.
Oh, they will?
Yeah, it's part of the national park.
Will they prop it back up or is it down? It's down
Well, yeah,
forever?
it's called restitution. They want to find the frickin' a-hole who did it and make him pay. It's so according to Superintendent Mike Reynolds, I've hiked along sections of this tramway and am amazed by the tenacity it took to build. I hope the person responsible for this damage will contact us so we can discuss restitution, unquote. Yeah, he's not very happy about
Won't
that.
happen.
Neither am I.
That person will be
No,
embarrassed
you know
forever.
what? It's been there for 113 years. If you know the guy, that somebody's going to dime that dude out. Or
think
that dude's
so?
going to be like, you know what? I didn't realize what it was, and I messed up. And then hopefully
So
they
the
can
thing
fix
is,
it.
no one goes out there alone, right? You got to think that he was with a wife
So you
or a
would think
buddy or
somebody-
something like that.
yeah,
And
I don't know. It just
do you
bugs
think?
me out.
Do you think it's city folk, like someone who?
I don't know. I'm not
Someone
going to
drove out
generalize.
there,
No,
you
it's just
don't
it's
know?
an idiot. It's an idiot who did something they shouldn't have done, and they didn't want to get stuck being off road where they were, and they went, "Oh, here's a structure. I'm going to winch it," and then they winched it over, and they went, "Oh f."
Is there cell service out there?
Yeah, there's cell service.
So they
I don't know
could've
if,
called for help.
I don't know if that particular spot, but.
Oh.
Anyway, and then the second thing in stupid idiots being stupid is you guys have probably all seen the video where some guy has his F-450 at 84 miles an hour with sandbags on the wheel and cruise control, and he's laying in the back seat.
Yeah.
Probably a social media stunt, but it's like that doesn't even have Blue Cruise, which is the hands-free steering and stuff. This just has lane keep assist essentially and adaptive cruise control. Like, what an idiot!
That's insane.
Like, what?
I mean, that's a 6,000-pound missile.
It's an F-450.
Oh,
It's like 10,000 pound missile.
I didn't realize you said 450.
450 going down the road with a dude in the back seat. Like, knock it off.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Apparently his name's Cameron James Crawford, and you can find him probably deleted by now at _ C.Crawford __. So I'm sure it's a troll account. People, stop being stupid. That's all I'm saying.
They're doing it for the gram, you know?
I know, but
He's doing it for the gram.
Stop doing it for the gram.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just knock it off already. Maybe I'm just sensitive because my 16-year-old's about to drive.
I think you are a little bit.
Well, I still don't want people to be stupid.
It's been about a month since we've checked in with the 5 Star Hotline, 657-205-6105, 657-205-6105. So let's do it.
Oh, come on and be part of the show. Call the 5 Star Hotline. 657-205-6105. It's the 5 Star Hotline. 5 Star Hotline.
Lightning Holman. Hey, just wanted to give a quick comment on the whole getting the 7.3 diesel wrong. Like, yeah, that's pretty disappointing, but I got to give it up to Lightning when I sent in my XR400 clip, and he was like, no, dude, that's a dirt bike. No, that's got a custom exhaust on or aftermarket exhaust on it, and it's a Honda. I was like, my jaw was literally on my chest when he was able to guess that much right. So I feel like I'm going to give you a buy. I'm not getting the 7.3 right. I'm not necessarily a Ford guy either, so maybe I'm just going to let it slide. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. 5 stars.
Very nice.
Congratulations, you have earned 5 stars.
Well, that was one of my prouder moments.
In life or on the show?
Just on the show. 657-205-6105. Available for you to call 24 hours a day.
Lightning and Holman. This is Stephen Watson, which Holman already knows because he gets the notification on his phone that probably tells him who called.
I'm going to pause it right there. There's no way this is going to be good for Lightning. If Stephen Watson's calling, it's got to be some rip on Lightning, right?
No, not necessarily.
But anyway, figured I would let you know that I'm one of the 2 listeners that knows these tricks about the catheter. which makes up, 3 to 5% of your total listener base, which means you have a lot of racers in your listeners, to have that many that actually know what you're talking about.
He's talking about himself, and probably Kevin Stearns are the racers that listen. They're the two listeners.
So you had a story about wearing a catheter and
and how
not allowing people to step on it so it snaps your
because it'll
junk.
Right, and you drop straight to the ground like a sniper rifle round hit you.
And I had a story about standing next to Josh Hall, who got back at me for poking fun at him by using his catheter to pee on me.
Well, he didn't pee on you.
He pretty much did.
He just put...
he put a puddle behind me.
Well,
he put a puddle to my feet.
That's why you always have to be situationally aware.
Yeah, taping the hose to your leg is something that if you don't think about it, you learn it very quick. And I kind of feel like we could probably write a manual or have an entire podcast segment on things about catheters, because some of the funniest stories that you ever hear are from desert racers talking about catheters.
How about no?
No, I'm on board. No, I think this is hilarious.
See, I don't.
This is good stuff.
And all of the fun that goes along with that. So anyway, there's a little future seed for you. I can tell you, just to get the party started, that I have a near perfect record with catheters. I've only peed my pants a little bit once. Every other time, even with Hammers races, getting in and out of the car a lot, managed to keep the thing on. So I got some pretty good technique. So if we need to compare notes, I can let you know the finer ins and outs of making these things work. So anyway, that is all for now. Have good days.
So how do I ask this, Holman, without, because I've never worn one. Is it a sock that turns into a hose?
Yeah, it's a condom that has a hose on the end.
Is that what it is?
The reservoir tip is about 36 inches long. And it doesn't have a tip. It has it just ends like a tube.
Oh, okay.
You just do your business.
Where do you find one small enough?
I've never had that problem. In fact, I use the Black Cat extra Magnum.
Sure you
I do. Gotta wrap it around. Never mind.
What's up, guys? It's Justin. You asked for some dealership.
Do you think he's underwater or talking through a sock?
I'm going to go with talking through a sock underwater.
Okay.
You asked for some dealership jargon. And
dealership jargon.
Take it as you will, but some of the negative things that you had asked for. We would like to call some customers Jacks.
Jacks?
As the name implies, Jack. And then...
Wait, hold on. I can't... call him a Jack? Like a jackass?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lightning, you mentioned whales. We call those bricks because their credit is as solid as a brick.
Oh,
there you go.
Anyone with an 800 plus credit score, say they're bricks. Done deal. Let's go. Bad credit people, those are roaches.
Roaches.
And 5 stars. That's great. Talk to you later.
So, do we have more bricks, whales, or roaches who listen to the show?
I think we have bricks.
Lots of bricks.
I think we do.
5-star review! 5 stars!
Appreciate the 5 stars. But next time you get a brick and you close a deal, use some of that money for a new phone.
Hey, Holman. Shane from Oregon. Was just filling up my truck and I was thinking about how you guys were talking about.
I like how he's just talking to me now.
How the computers are never accurate on especially American-made cars, where the Honda is perfect. My wife's Mercedes is the same. It could take it to the 10th if it wanted to. I think they do it because they don't think we're going to do the math. You also put in eco mode. It makes it better on the computer, even though nothing's changing. Just a thought. Love the show, guys. Keep it up.
It's one of those things that you're like, why can't you just give me an accurate readout of my miles per gallon? I don't get it.
I mean, it's based on fuel flow and a bunch of other things.
It's
I don't
easy.
think it's that. No, is it that easy?
Absolutely. They're metering. You know exactly what you're metering into the engine. Precisely, more than ever. How is the Honda identical every time to hand calculating, and everything else that I have is not?
I don't know. We should speak to an expert.
Tunnel Woman and Toe Mater.
Wait, Total Woman and
Wow.
Toe Mater?
Okay, those are interesting slams. Go ahead.
Total Woman and Toe Mater.
I don't know why you're Toe Mater. I mean, I'm whole man, so he's making fun of me there, but
Yeah.
I don't know what Toe Mater has to do with you.
Because lightning and
Oh, maybe lightning
from
Cars?
Cars movie and
okay, all right.
and Mater and
All right, carry on.
I think you guys can figure out which of you is which there.
No, we just did.
Just wanted to call in and say I enjoyed the last couple episodes, especially the guy there that imports the mini trucks. He was quite the guy there. I enjoyed listening to him. Also got to spread the love for that last sound effect that Lightning is so infatuated with. I too love it. I loved it long before it was ever played on the Truck Show podcast. Gets me to laugh every time. So, sorry, Holman.
That's okay. You're dead to
I
me.
guess you're out of luck on that one. Anyway, last time I called in, if I didn't introduce myself, it's Tristan calling in again.
What's up, Tristan?
What's up?
I called in last time, and you guys said that you couldn't hear my Freightliner running. Well, that's big. My headset connected. So I'll disconnect that for just a little bit.
Did he just get shot? What happened there?
Sounds like he's running on bubbles.
Well, I think what he did is he put it out the window, and it's just the wind noise is killing the microphone.
All right, well, that was a disappointment. I was really hoping to hear the Freightliner.
And instead, we heard whale noises.
I don't think that was whale noise. I don't know what that was.
And by request,
5-star review! 5-star!
Meltzer Parameter!
All right, well, if you are out there driving your big rig cross country and you got something to say, hit us up on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105. We want to hear from you. You could be on the show.
Yeah, give us a shout, please.
The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh,
And don't forget to hit us up on our socials, at Truck Show Podcast, at Sean P. Holman, at LBC Lighting, or email truckshowpodcast@gmail.com, lightning at truckshowpodcast.com, or Holman at truckshowpodcast.com. And don't forget, head on over to our website, truckshowpodcast.com, and you can look under our events tab. We got quite a few events coming up here in the next few weeks.
We got a ton coming up. I think there's Battle in Bama that's coming up.
That's at the Talladega Super Speedway, May 30th through June 1st. But before that, we've got the Beach Bash, Florida in New Smyrna Speedway. That's May 24th through the 26th.
Did you see that there's like 35 Jeep events on there? What's up with Jeepers?
Dude, they
will
get
throw
together.
an event at the drop of a hat.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
May 31st to June 2nd, you got the Ultimate Call Out Challenge at Lucas Oil Raceway.
AMSOIL in the house.
That's right. Our sponsor of the Truck Show Podcast, AMSOIL, is also the title sponsor, the Ultimate Call Out Challenge.
Oh, you know what's going to be in their booth? On a table?
What?
I can't tell you.
Okay, then
it's
I don't
a
know.
special Banks something that's not available yet.
Oh, all
I
right.
just made a metal stand to hold this special something. And it's actually two
Is it
something.
it's the oil cap and def cap.
No, it's not.
Oh, something else.
You could put 100 oil and fuel and def caps in this thing.
Okay.
So it's girthier, it's sizier.
Sizier. All right, well, if you are in New Hampshire near Harrisville, you'll probably want to know all about Wheeling for Warriors Trail Run. That's also May 31st to June 1st at the Field and Forest Recreation Area. And same weekend, 31 through the 1st, Willie's Jeep Rally in Ohio at the Houston Woods Lodge.
No, which one do you go to?
And then, well, it depends where you live. And then if you're near Mears, Michigan, Golden Township Park is going to be hosting the Jeep Invasion at Silver Lake Sand Dunes, also May 31st to June 2nd.
Have you ever been to Silver Lake Sand Dunes? I hear it's actually pretty cool.
It is cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Is it as big as Glamis? It's not.
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's big for the Midwest, but it's not big compared to some of the stuff we have out here.
Do they have those crazy, like, super sharp peaks, or is it just rollers? Do you know? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, I mean, it's sand dunes. It's just a great place to go test out your Jeep, your truck, Go have some fun, put your flag on there, hang out with your buddies, and they actually host quite a few events. It's over on the west side of the state. It's definitely a cool spot to go to.
Hey, before we close out this episode, I'd like to ask you guys to please leave us a review. We've been keeping track of them. You can head over to the Apple Podcast app, and if you scroll down, you'll find the little reviews section. Please do leave us a review, and the funnier the better. If it cracks us up, we'll read it on the show.
And of course, we got to thank our presenting sponsor, Nissan, who is the purveyor of really great trucks. So if you're in the market for a new midsize truck, check out the Nissan Frontier, starting at $30,510. And moving on up to the Pro 4X, which is my personal favorite. You can go to nissanusa.com to build and price the Nissan truck for your driveway, or pick one up at your local Nissan dealer and just tell them Lightning and Holman sent you.
And if you're towing heavy with your GM, Ford, or Ram, you need to cool those rear-end gears. Head on over to bankspower.com, type in your year, make, and model to get your patented Ram Air rear differential cover. The cooler the lube, the longer your gears will last.
Well, speaking of lube, I've got the perfect lube for you, Lightning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 75W90 severe gear.
Did you know that when you look at the SAE viscosities, that gear oil is different than motor oil?
Yes.
And that gear oil is actually thinner than than the equivalent viscosity of motor oil?
No, I don't know if I knew that.
It's kind of interesting. So people don't know that because they're like, why is my motor oil thicker at a lower viscosity than my 75, 140 gear oil? And it's because they use different scales. So there you go. There's a little SAE viscosity nugget for you guys.
I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know that.
There you go.
Interesting.
I learn something new every day.
Holman with the nuggets of knowledge.
There you go. All right. AMSOIL is a great place to go. AMSOIL.com. They've got motor oil, lubricants, hydraulic oil, compressor oil, fuel additives, transmission fluid, gear oil, bearing and chassis grease, filters, steering, antifreeze, cleaners, protectants, firearm lubricants. I mean, on and on and on. AMSOIL is #1 in synthetics, and it's our go-to choice when we want to keep our stuff protected.
And a big thanks to Chuck Foreman and his wife Jennifer for stopping by. If you're looking for a jack that'll take the most severe of abuse, head over to proeagle.com. And Holman, to take us out with a special episode.
Peel the avocado.
Peel the avocado. Peel the avocado.
Peel
the avocado.
Guacamole.
Guacamole.
Guacamole. Guacamole.
How do you not love that?
I don't, and I've already checked out of the show.
Yeah, along with all of our listeners.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis with production elements by DJ Omar Khan. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and give us a 5-star rating. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to show your support than by patronizing our sponsors.